Welcome to Adopting Zero Trust, an independent podcast that dives into the world of zero trust and tells the story of people who are adopting it. Throughout our series, we'll investigate why zero trust is becoming a critical concept for cybersecurity. Our hosts, Elliot Volkman and Neil Dennis, will have transparent and open conversations with the people driving modern security approaches forward, while leaving vendor hype behind. It's time to remove implicit trust and buzzwords and get to the root of the movement.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of AZT. I am your producer, Elliot, alongside your actual host, Neil Dennis. And today, we're not going to be covering zero trust in particular. We have a really compelling story that has led to a new solution. So I don't want to ruin necessarily the punchline and what the outcome was, but Haseeb, you have a really interesting story to share with our listeners, and I do want to at least give you a proper introduction before we kind of jump into that. So I know you are an alumni of Y Combinator. You now are the CEO of your own company. What has actually led you to being in that seat before we get to the story at hand?
I think they're sort of connected, so I just want to keep a suspense there. But at the same time, it was pretty much a need, right? I couldn't find a solution for myself, to be honest. Like I tried to find out, and I couldn't find anything. And till today, I cannot find any solution. Obviously, I'm biased, but basically, I figured out that every company is built for mass market in cybersecurity specifically. Like, companies are looking for, hey, enterprise market, let's go for enterprise, let's sell six-figure, seven-figure contract, and come with the terms which are very, very complicated, like, DNS filtering, hijacking, all those things, zero trust. These are very complicated terms. And I just wanted a solution, a cell phone service that works for me. So I had a mission of that, if I fly business class, I get like kind of a better service from my airline, right? I skip the line and all those things. But if it comes to cell phone, I don't get it that. And that was pretty much, is there a need to build a better cell phone service? That was pretty much the entire premise of that. And are people willing to pay a premium for that? And that pretty much led to what we wanted to build, just a better cell phone service, just a first-class experience.
Excellent. Yeah, I can definitely see where that makes sense. I feel like usually the best technology solutions usually stem from when there is a problem that doesn't necessarily yet have a solution, or you found a better, more unique way to resolve it. Maybe it's through automation, or it's faster, or more easy to use, or maybe a combination of those. But with all that said, let's just dig right into the subject matter. So when your colleague approached us, I don't really know the most appropriate way to say my reaction, but I think the pitch was, I have the perfect person to chat with for one of your episodes. He was in a SIM swap attack, not once, not twice, but I think it was 4 different times. So, that is definitely a unique story that we'll be digging into here today. So I will say, if we're going to throw some stats around, and I think Neil can throw me some actual numbers since he lives more closely to this world, is, in like a ransomware attack, you're more prone to whatever percentage get re-attacked again or be a victim again of certain different attacks. And I think maybe because you were hit once, there's that viability where we're looking at that again. But you'll correct me if I'm wrong. Is there's some like sort of stat where like you're twice as likely or 3 times as likely to get hit again or something?
So with ransomware payments, yes, yeah, that's a pretty standard stat piece. Is the more you pay, the more you're probably going to get shafted. I did look before this about SIM swap stats, and I know Haseeb's probably got some wonderful ones given the nature of the company. But you can Google this real quick. You can find some stats around a bunch of different things. But FBI alone said in the U.S. that it was a $70 million financial plop last year. And that's not counting probably what Haseeb's probably going to hopefully discuss around long-term impact as well as brand impact or other weird things that go along with anything getting compromised, right? So, it's kind of fun and heir apparent, I think, and good timing for a company like what we're about to go down the rabbit hole with, because we have MFA, we have secure other things that we do, right, to zero trust type mentality. But what we don't really have is a really good methodology for actually securing your number one most responsible device for all of these other technologies. It's standard network procedures, it's standard fun stuff, and then we end up with something as simple as a SIM swap, which oddly enough is not a very difficult thing to do under a normal network. So all that to say, Haseeb, happy to listen to some stats on your behalf, from what y'all see as a company perspective, and increase, decrease in general around all the impact too.
So obviously, the challenge with stats is that it's very hard to compile them because a lot of time people get victim. They do not come after embarrassment or they are being constantly blackmailed that if you say this, we will basically come after you, right? And so a lot of people don't know where to go. And FBI, as far as I know, they don't take crimes below $500,000. So if you walk in with, hey, I have a $10,000 loss, they say, this is not our problem. Just go to like local police, and the local police will say, that's the counter over there. Just note down your complaint, and we'll get back to you. Which never happens, obviously. Like personally, when I got hacked, my story was like, first of all, it took me like almost a day to tell them what is a SIM swap. So I spent a day educating my telecom provider what is a SIM swap. They said that cannot happen. And when they figured out what happened, they said, okay, we understand that. First of all, we are sorry. And I said, okay, sorry would not do anything. So why don't you help me out? They said, we cannot help you out because the number doesn't belong to us anymore. It's on a different carrier. So now we don't own the number anymore. So I said, what should I do? He said, contact the carrier. I went to a different carrier and they say, you're not our customer because this is not your number. I said, okay, previous carrier said, I'm their customer, but that number doesn't belong. New carrier said that I'm not their customer. So who is the customer? And they say, we can't tell you. And I said, okay, man. So anyways, I spent almost 2 days on figuring out. And despite that, I believe that I was expert on this topic at that time, because I was running a Bitcoin ATM. So the story starts with, I started one of the world largest Bitcoin ATM networks. Last year we got acquired and we had like almost 10,000 locations, 500,000 clients, and processing over $1 billion in cash. Mm-hmm. So think about processing, not like, it's $1 billion in cash, right? You come across all kind of interesting people in that industry that who are like basically into crypto. You add crypto, you add cash and everything, and things get interesting, So we come across like a lot of criminals, and we do so like how it happens. But long story short is that I realized that how easy the attack is. And if you look at every kind of ransomware attack or regular attack, it's basically a very small thing that happened. Okay, what was the issue? Someone set the password to password and admin to admin. Someone did not set up their 2FA. Mm-hmm. Someone took their laptop and went drunk, right? A lot of those issues, like, an entire posture, entire like castle that you have built around security is obviously grown because ultimately it comes down to me, Neil, or Elliot who can make a mistake because companies depend on us, right? They depend on us. We'll act in the bad faith and know we screw up sometime because we want convenience. So I realized that I can have MD and I can have like 2FA, but my telephone number is my identity. And when we were building Bitcoin ATM, we had to do KYC and AML. So for people who don't know your customer and any money laundering, so you have to identify a customer. So if Neil walks up to an ATM, and Elliot is the one who's running the ATM, now he has two options. Either ask for his ID and like go through complete scans and basically do complete checkup, which may take half an hour and cost him $4 or $5. Or he can just take his telephone number, and against telephone number, he can run a database and get all the information. Will cost $1. So it was purely a cost. And when you're processing like 500,000 clients per year, it becomes a cost. So we figured out the cheapest way to find someone is telephone number. It's like more social security number. You can find someone even how many credit cards does a person have and what's the limit on that just by your telephone number. You give me a telephone number, you can find out. I have Chase Bank card with like 10,000 limit, just to give you an example. You have, this card, and now you know what's the credit score of a person, how much net worth they have, and how can you clean it. So I figured out that telephone number is something that's more critical than social security number. Like we have all thought of, and we have companies like LifeLock, Aura, and we have like a lot of nice companies around it who have built around cyber identity theft. But come to mobile security, we don't have anything. We basically do not think about anything. And SIM swap is such an easy attack to carry on, even today, is that there's no such thing built around it. So after we started Bitcoin ATM, I said I want to buy a bank. I know this looks pretty stupid, but I said I want to buy a bank because there was no crypto bank at that time, and that was my goal. And my phone got hacked, not one time, 4 times. And what it did to me was it basically screwed up my entire career around. It basically made me dead around buying a bank. because I got into so much fear, and I was constantly living in a fear life. Like I couldn't go for camping because I thought that anytime I lose my signal, I thought I was SIM swapped. So I couldn't go for, like, people say, I don't want to disconnect. I'll wake up like 2 o'clock at night and figure out, oh my god, my phone is working or not working. So I'll go to restroom, and I am a person who does not like to keep his phone on the side. So I was the person who will leave his phone in the living room and just go for sleep, right? And but it changed me. I couldn't go into basement, right? I moved out of my apartment because I couldn't take the basement anymore. I had like some kind of, I don't know what you call, like mobophobia, I don't know, whatever, but phobia was basically I constantly had to look at my phone and make sure my phone is ready. That was a challenge. And what it did to me was that I couldn't function. I believed that someone will come after me and take away everything I have. So people say, but they never stole your money. I said, yes, but think about it, Neil or Elliot. You are in your studio and you go outside for drinks and you come back and there's a note on your studio, on your desk. I was here,
Right?
right?
No,
And
absolutely not.
you cannot sleep in that house anymore, right? Because you know that my door was locked, right? Nothing has changed, and camera shows nothing.
That
And there's like a bullet on my desk, and I was here. And that's all I felt. I said, okay, man, I cannot function this more. So I said, I realized I'm a telecom engineer. I went to degree and I took a telecom degree. I'm a certified engineer. And I said, okay, man, what is difficult in doing all of this? So I started assisting. I said, how easy it is to hack someone. So FCC made it super simple to SIM swap someone because of competitive. Like, back in the day, there was no, like, if you're an AT&T customer, you cannot move to T-Mobile. So this was, like,
Yeah.
they said, let's move it simple and you can be able to move your cell phone company. And the challenge with that was that they made it super simple that carrier says, okay, screw that. We'll have one single point of thing: account number, telephone number, and zip code. These are three things that are required to swap anyone. You have these three things of anyone, you can SIM swap anyone. So I can literally go online and I can find your number, which is not difficult to find for anyone, even for me. You can find which zip code I have, and just the only thing left is your account number. And you can do a bit of social engineering and find an account number. And these three things are the only thing that needed to SIM swap someone. Then people start going into stores. Like, they will go into stores and they will basically just work there at $10 an hour, so they can SIM swap someone for $500 per hour. So they will take, okay, I'll take like 50 people and I'll SIM swap them. And they get fired, they move on to different stores, and they realize those are not employed by AT&T.
Wow.
So AT&T does not even have record of who got employed in their store because they were like a third party.
Yeah.
Right? So you can, like, be like in Charlotte and basically work and basically hack 5 stores. You get fired, and now you move to like Miami, and then you go to Minnesota. Like, you keep on hopping. You can go to Dayton, Ohio, and you can start a new life. So you can do it over the year. And I realized there's people involved. It's a big cartel, like, because we start observing a lot of things. The day you had money sitting in your account, crypto account, within 2 days you got hacked. So there was some kind of, so I believe there were some people inside the exchanges or someone in the bank who was tipping it. So they kind of built a cartel around it where they had a tip, and then they had a people, like, one guy would be working in a store, one guy would be SIM swapping someone, one guy would be doing thing, and they made killing out of it. And recently, I'm happy to talk about how they're targeting now, and they have moved beyond crypto. They started stealing credit cards, where they will just basically start stealing credit card, activate, like, they will go into people mailboxes in rich neighborhoods, and they will pick up all the mail and see if there's any credit card. They'll see all the credit cards. Then on credit card, they find out telephone number. They will SIM swap someone. Obviously, everyone have a good credit limit on those areas. They will basically ruin their stuff, and boom, they made like 40K, 50K. And
So let's real quick, before we get further down into current stuff, I kind of want to unpack some of the old stuff real fast. So first off, I think this is awesome. I think the fact that, I mean, it's not awesome that you lost sleep over it, to be in all fairness, but I think it's kind of, to Elliot's starter point, it's kind of a neat, it's an origin story, right? I think everybody that owns a company or goes into a company management at a C-suite level probably has an origin story somewhere of how and why they got to whatever those companies. Some people were just simply because their friend told them to get on a podcast and they started working one, and they just liked it. Others is because they have a legit origin story. So yours, you've experienced this life of people coming after you for various reasons, the cryptocurrency connection, and all that fun stuff that goes with trying to start that endeavor, and people looking at you as a point of interest to get into that type of financial gain, right? So we see people go after cryptocurrency exchanges. We see people go after wallets. We see something I've personally seen, not my own phone, but another friend's phone, where they did SIM swap his phone for the sake of trying to get access to his wallets. And it just so happened that they were very successful at that. And to the point of what you're making, most of the time our financial security is tied up to that phone number. And if you can call that phone number, you can reset almost everything, because they assume that that person behind the number is who it claims to be, no matter what. They may ask you for a phone password, right? Hey, what's your account password? Well, it's blah, 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 right? But then, oh, no, that's not right. Can you just give me your zip code to what you mentioned, right? And or the last four of your account number. Great MFA there. And we go down that whole rabbit hole of that financial remuneration and just how easy it is once you're there to take advantage of everything that is connected to that phone number. Now, I think for the listeners that is exceedingly important to understand, that after everything we've talked about on Zero Trust, you can still have a single point of failure that is exceedingly mundane and easy to social engineer your way back into, to get those accesses completely breached, whether it's whether it's copying someone's apps over from a phone as part of a port, whether it's understanding what's already there and just resetting accounts through the phone number and OTP and all the other fun stuff that goes there. It's not a great thing, right? And so I just wanted to step back on that a little bit around your origin story, because I want people to understand just how important it is to understand this security threat. And then the last piece of this is, I've purposely done SIM swapping exploits myself to try it out. I've also personally locked my SIM through a particular large carrier that will remain nameless, but it's a big carrier, and they have a SIM lock thing, right? That it's supposed to keep it locked for X amount of weeks, days. It didn't do what it was supposed to.
Yeah.
I bought a cheap phone from Walmart on a different carrier, SIM swapped after I locked my phone after a couple of days. Went through it, and they just let it go through. There was no checks on my current phone to say, hey, we're looking at this. There was no authentication. Got on the phone. The guy said, oh, sorry, I get it. You forgot your SIM lock password, quote unquote, or whatever it was. And he's like, yeah, let me just take care of that for you. And then I was on a different network with the new phone. These are the things I do for fun, Elliot.
I love
And
to
why
take
I
you
like
on
this
that
story.
testimonial, because we sometimes say people, oh, I have a port lock on. Some people say there's SIM lock on the phone, and it prevent. I said SIM lock is totally different from port out, right? And anyway, so
Yeah.
uh, and again, frankly, I thought my business would be dead in 1 year, because this is such a stupid problem to solve. Like if you look at it, like it's like, why you have one job, just make sure no one goes into my account. That's a simple job, and they still fail at it. And I talk to like a lot of CISOs, and they say, frankly, because it doesn't make us the money. Like every time we have to like authenticate so much, it costs money to us. So like if a company is like doing like T-Mobile is porting like 100,000 customers per day, it costs them like $5 per authentication. Now that's $500,000 down the drain every year. That's $150 million per year.
Yep. Yeah, it is expensive, right? Security is expensive up front. Long-term costs are obviously less when it starts to become more prolific. And I think to the point of where you're working, we can start to talk about this a little bit around what y'all's offering is, I think, and how you're addressing these problems more, and some more current trends, because I love hearing where you see the trends going. What I'm used to is crypto jacking and doing stuff like that. And now knowing from a financial services, the crypto exchanges are getting technically more safe, but your financial bank stuff, your apps, and the ability to reset, that's not. But on the flip side, I'm thinking about the tech stack a little bit, and the cost up front versus what's going to happen when we know a breach happens, right? So it only takes one time for somebody to get a security budget, but the problem is that one time still probably costs more than the original security budget a lot of times.
It's
So
like anything. Prevention is better than cure, but obviously you want to get like like I was surprised that like in crypto, not that we do. People will have $100,000 portfolio and they will not even buy like a hardware wallet because like $100. right? And I said, like,
Yeah.
dude, what are you up to, right? And they
Yeah,
get
we don't
hacked,
want
and
to
they
find
come
it in
to
the
us and
dump
say, hey,
next week.
I'm willing to give you 20% of what we lost. I said, dude, like, it doesn't work this way. It's gone. It's gone.
So maybe Haseeb, on this, to kind of get into the construct of why this is important, aside from, I mean, I know we can both go back and forth about the exploits and the costs, definitely, and I would actually like to. But maybe if you've got some constructs around some of the more on the trend side that you were kind of getting into a little bit, and I know that, once again, just a quick search, you can see that this is a trend that's going up, right? This is not going away. This is, I think, in my looks, it seems like, while it's not a new concept to do, I think it's a new flavor for a large scale approach for the fraudsters out there to start doing. And we're going to go from tens of millions of dollars, under 100 million in the U.S. alone, in this year, next year, whatever it may be, to hundreds of millions to potentially billions within a handful of years. And I think, kind of, if you've got some aspects on the trends and what you've seen from a scalability of that growth and what you see the threat actors doing, that'd be awesome.
Sure. So first of all, like, I look at cybersecurity. Like, we all have to understand that there'll be more breaches next year than this year. There'll be more losses next year than this year. There'll be more lives impacted and destroyed because of cybersecurity. And it's not limited to individuals, it'll be limited to, like, state level attacks. Why do I have to bomb a country? A country has to bomb. I'm an anti-war or anti-violence, but I'm just saying, if they're the evil country and they want to bomb other country or damage, why do they have to spend all the arsenals? Right? They can just do a cybersecurity attack and can potentially make more damages. Like, we have. So one thing is, cybersecurity is going to be bigger, and the next an attack will become more sophisticated. So that's like one trend. If you look at SimSwap, FBI said that there were 4x more attacks than the year before. And how many people will think about contacting FBI? Like, you go to, like, your local law enforcement agency, and they'll say, oh, contact this. But so this is one trend. Number two is, my telephone number is my identity now. Like, if you look at this phone, I spend probably, like, maybe 50% of my time is spent on this phone for my work, my personal life, and this is unsecure. Like, there's no brand around which makes it security. Like, people have been, you can call any big kid and they say, oh, I lost my entire bank. Oh, I'm so sorry for that. I'll give you 1 month free. Dude, I lost my house. I'll give you a free Apple Watch. Dude, like, this is absurd. So I think, and telephone numbers are something that I want to keep with myself. Like, I have, I used to be in Canada before. I still keep my Canadian number because I don't want anyone to get access to my Canadian number, because that's linked to my identity. So that's like, your social security number or social insurance number in Canada or whatever country you go to. So people want to keep their telephone number because they don't want to get expired. And the older it is, the more things it's linked to. We will get trends where we will have, like, YubiKey and hardware keys and, like, Google authenticators and app-based OTPs. The only challenge is that telephone numbers are not going away for the next maybe 10 years, 15 years, I don't know, whatever time is. And then the cellular communication, like, we will have cars running on 5G. Like, someone can eavesdrop into those conversations. Can someone inject some malware into that, where I'm driving a car, because I envision I'll be sleeping in an RV and the car will be driving by myself using the 5G. That's my vision, right, in the 10 years. And what if someone can take over the internet connection? We have IMSI catchers. I don't know, we can go into those things, but we have things which can actually manipulate all the conversation. You can have, signal jammers, where you can be isolate someone. So there are a lot of hacks that happen in cellular communication. So my entire bet is that, can we make communication secure? That's the entire bet. But in any shape or form, through mobile specifically, like, can we secure all the wireless communication? And cellular, because I believe the world will go away from Wi-Fi. There'll be no Wi-Fi in 10 years. That's my belief. So if everything goes on to 5G, then that communication need to be secure. And telephone number is my identity. Can we make these two things secure? And I don't know what future would look like. Like, maybe today's SIM swapping, maybe tomorrow's IMSI catcher become a bigger issue. Maybe, like, signal jammer become a big issue. Can we secure those things? And this is pretty much my vision is, and I hope that we get somewhere there. And with the big carriers, I spoke to a lot of big carriers. We still talk to them a lot, and our basic thing is, they say, we are Walmart. If a customer is high profile, he pays the same amount of money as an ordinary customer is paying. So it's not like if you are Bill Gates, you're paying still $100 because they don't have a plan, something for $10,000. While the risk for dealing with Bill Gates is much higher, while dealing with the end customer. So we prefer not to do it with customers because they cause most pain and they get in lawsuits. There been like maybe dozen lawsuits every month on carriers. So our thing is, can we become like a Louis Vuitton or Rolls Royce for cell phone services?
So I think this is some fun points where, like you mentioned, the Walmart, basically, right? So I'm assuming Bill Gates is probably in a big three cell phone user group from the provider's perspective. But regardless, I mean, that's a valid statement. $100 plan's $100 plan, no matter who you are in general, whether it's a business plan or wherever the paycheck comes from. They treat them all ultimately the same from a network perspective. And I think there's a lot of tech out there that goes into making a secure phone physical device, like the actual device themselves. I've got rooted versions of various OSs from back in the day. I've got custom version of Android installed on my phone that allows the device physically to be secure better than a standard Android device, right? But my phone number is still a weak point, and to the importance of what you're getting at, you don't have echelons of approach that you can pay for under standard service operating to make your security better, like you could with AWS. You go into AWS and you get an EC2 instance. You can either just have a completely open box and you personally do what you want to do to secure it. You can pay a couple extra bucks and get into a tiered service where they monitor basics for you, or you can get into whatever the gold status is tier, right? And that's 1 or 2% of their CS or their base. So every other service that we have out there connected to our digital life, chances are it has some kind of additional security parameters that you as a corporation can pay for to get more secure. Your phone number and your phone service, to your point, not the case. So on that, I'm kind of curious to see what y'all have kind of done to help ensure that process is as difficult as possible and as secure as it can be, and maybe kind of highlight some of the process steps and flows that y'all have put into play as a service provider.
So we do like if it comes to cybersecurity, frankly, number one fear is always like never get hacked, right? Like we are as good as today. Tomorrow someone can attack us. Right now someone is trying to attack us. Like there's a constant battle with all the cell phone companies. And so I say this to everyone. I said, man, there's nothing in the world practically that's 100% hack proof. You look at all the top algorithm, technically there's a way to crack them. The challenge is we make it so difficult that it's not worth it anymore. So if you look at Bitcoin, you can actually take it over by having a 51% tag, but not worth it. If you have that, you can DDoS any network, you can do everything. But again, we make it so difficult that you go from like 80% SIM-swap attack. Like I don't know if you know that, but 80% of SIM-swap attacks are successful. This is a report by Princeton. They said anytime they try to attack someone, 80% of the time they were all successful, right? So my point is that this is this was a challenge, right? So our thinking was that can we make it super difficult, which means that we add so much authentication that a customer cannot pass through it. So in order to go through it, you need to know your social security, like not social security, like location, your IP, which computer do you use, what's your ICC. Obviously, I don't want to explain everything on the phone because there's like some trade secrets too. But we go through a set of like 15, 16 processes that we authenticated the user, and chances are we can get it wrong. Like there'll be one day we'll may make a mistake. So for that, what we have done is we have made an insurance policy. We say, hey man, we'll not send you, hey Neil or Elliot, you lost everything. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for inconvenience, and you're sitting on the homeless because you lost everything. We say, no, we have a $500 insurance policy. If something goes wrong, we'll cover your losses. So first of all, we try to protect everything we can, and then we cover your losses. And that's the best we can do. Again, hopefully, carriers get stuff together and we don't need to exist anymore. Like, frankly, that's what my hoping is, because running a cybersecurity company is very stressful, and they get it because a lot of massive liability, because even our upside is limited because we charge a specific money, but our downside is massive, So to summarize that, we made it super difficult by having authentication. And one of the things we did was we actually offer only one plan, which is like $100 per month plan. And we say, we don't allow making any changes. So there's no way you can make any changes to the account, because every time we have to make a change, it costs us so much money that we will never offer more plans. We just offer one plan. We don't give hardware, we don't give you Netflix, we don't give you anything else. We just say this one thing and that's it. You want it, you take it. You don't want it, you basically go. On our side, what helps is that we don't have to focus on building, optimizing, or pricing, optimizing for different packages, because every time you have to make a change, you have to authenticate. And if imagine you need a phone, and we say, okay, let's spend 2 days on authenticating you. It's a massive pain. We say, let's go iPhone and fix it. Because those are not critical things. You want Netflix, you go to Netflix directly. Don't come to us. Like, why do we need to provide you Netflix?
Yep.
We're a cell phone company. And we just say we are a cybersecurity company that happen to do secure communication. We're not a telecom company who is providing you all the perks.
I'm looking at some of the stuff, so I'm scrolling through y'all's website again. I looked at it earlier this morning, but I like some of the things that y'all are out there doing. And towards the middle bottom of the page somewhere in here, y'all say, quote, Black Seal Protection, Zero Trust SIM solution, right?
Yeah.
So I think for people listening in and getting the flavor of the day with zero trust mentality, if you can kind of, maybe if you can hit on some of the highlights around what that application means and what that kind of includes from a security. And then I'll ask a follow-up question around after that, but I'm just kind of curious, by definition, what y'all's approach is from that zero trust policy procedure.
Sure. So one thing is, this is my dream, is that basically in one day, there will be no telephone numbers, right? Again, this is a dream, and we may have public keys or like SSH kind of like a PGP kind of keys. And so if I want to reach Neil, I will have like neil@neil.com, and it will reach him, and you don't need to have telephone number anymore, because it goes through your public key, like similar to your cryptography. That's the one thing. And one thing which is always a risk in our system is that, can a human make a change? Like, ultimately, someone is manually doing authentication and someone is doing all the things, but what if that person get compromised? Like, we can reduce the risk factor by having multiple people, but ultimately a customer has to add it. The only challenge with that is that we have to be regulated by FCC, and FCC requires some personal record, because there's a chance that Neil or Elliot may lose their SIM card one day, and they come to me and they say, I want to record my number, and I cannot say that, hey, this is it, we want it. So what we did is, we said, why don't we give you a SIM card, eSIM card, which is data only, and you can authenticate, you can install it, but if you lose, we don't have any control over it. So that is something that we want to try it out. We are trying it for the past 1 year to launch it, and we have been running a beta test on this. But effectively, what happens is that we absolutely have zero control over what goes on the SIM card, how much data do you use, but we provide you like more like a sandbox or like an instance of eSIM card, where you can pick up your own packages, you can make up your own IPs, you can connect your own VPN, and you can have a block. So you don't need to install any VPN on the phone. But more than that, one interesting part is, you don't need to, if you are using like a filtering solution or DNS, like, filter, you can say, I only want these 5 websites to be open. Other than that, any traffic need to be blocked. You can do that in the SIM card. And so that's our vision, where we make a appless appless SIM card. Only struggle with us right now is that it doesn't work on telephone number. Like, we have the ability to block all the SIM numbers, so we can block all the spam calls. We can block all the spam text messages, but carriers do not allow you to do so. Apple is very stringent on that. Every big carrier is stringent on that too. So we are having a bit of struggle on that when it comes to telephone numbers. So we are having a workaround where it's like data SIM card. So to summarize your question, it works very well on zero trust, but on data SIM card, but it does not work well on when you have telephone numbers involved, because there's some rules around it. Like on data, you can lose a SIM card; it doesn't matter.
I'm a personal fan of virtualized SIM or virtualized, phone number ID constructs, and I think for the grand scheme of things, telecom's perspective, I wholeheartedly agree that digitalization of that ID to make it more comparable with, pick a type of blockchain encryption scheme or whatever it may be, security wise, I think that is hopefully will be the long-term goal. I like virtualized SIMs. I like the idea that app driven, and whatever the background is on that phone, you secure the device. Once again, we secure the device, and we move beyond using my hard-coded number on the device, and we start moving towards data channels, like normal internet traditional data channels standard, right? And have that security pipeline. I think from an authentication perspective, though, on y'all's piece for the current physical pieces of hardware, and normally we don't want to sales pitch things on our show, but I do honestly like this tech that y'all have a lot, and I see it as an exceedingly unique opportunity at the moment. So I am intrinsically curious about how y'all mentioned on the website, there's this proprietary verification process, and then we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But when we start thinking about what zero trust as a construct really means, it means it's not a trust but verify. It's a verify and assume they're bad, right? That's the grand scheme of things, and that there needs to be established pathways for everything that have been validated and secured between different encryption schemas and everything else. But there needs to be multiple layers beyond just a phone number and an OTP or an MFA app, right? And I think, for what you're able to talk to around that construct and why that's so important to y'all to have so many levels of security around this based off of your experiences and exposure, that'd be kind of fun to highlight a little bit around that security implementation.
So our goal with this specifically around zero trust and building your own system is can we give you a AWS kind of instance where you basically can your own pick up SIM card, you can change your MZ range whenever you want. So you can have a list of 5 MZ, you can just click and you have a new MZ anytime, right? And you can have, because you don't have an LT anymore, but you don't need to have a telephone number. You can flip it as you want. You can destroy the SIM card. You can add SIM card. That's pretty much what our goal is. And because we don't know to recover it, you can work around with that. And also the only challenge that is I'll give you struggles too, right? First of all, they do not work with local SIM cards, so you need to have an international ID. So with zero trust our SIM card, they're all international IDs. They're data only SIM card. Right now they work okay with the cell phone, but they're not primarily supposed to be used in a cell phone. So we are working around those barriers. That's why we don't sell there's no option to buy a SIM card. We are testing out right now. Happy to send you one and you can test it out, and love to see what there is. But our thinking is that we need to reduce attack vectors and chances where things can fail. So with data SIM card we can do it, and the reason I'm saying with data SIM card we can do it because if you lose data SIM card, it doesn't matter. It's just a data. You can issue yourself a new data SIM card. You can play around, you can destroy. Because a lot of eSIM cards, I don't know if you know that they're only one-time use. So if you use a SIM card, it does not work anymore, not in a new phone. You have to have a new SIM card for every phone. We have some customers who format their phone and the eSIM card is gone. And that's a struggle because physical SIM card, you can take it back and it's still there. But with eSIM card, what's gone is gone. So every time issue, it costs us money. So again, this is the kind of more like a concept point we are looking at. But ultimately, our thing is, what if we give you a list of 100 MZs, 100 SIM cards? You play around with it. You can fit up your own DNS filtering with that. You can set up, I like these files. I need this, I need this VPN protocol, and you just set it up, run by itself. So if you go to Heroku, they have a very good option where you can pick up the choice of your VPN. You can pick up your own protocol, and so it becomes like a marketplace. So that's pretty much how the goal is. You can set up your own level of authentication. You can say, hey man, I authorize Elliot to make a change on my behalf, right? Or I need a multi-layer of signature. But this is but ultimately, can you provide you with a layer of built on top?
Yeah. So this would be a good way to, in theory, to be able to, if we think about that list of 100, I could set up protocols and procedures per each instance as an established process and have varying layers of trust per each structure that I step right through, right? So I could have, maybe option A is, I need 5 layers of authentication for X and Y, and it needs to go through these different things. And, next one down, option B is, whatever, it's Elliot, and that's what this line is being used to discuss with. So it's whatever happens, right? You can build out your own implicit or implied trust methodologies or zero trust methodologies based off of a much more robust data access perspective and manage uniquely from, I'm guessing probably from a single device at some point in time, multiple channels of multiple lines and multiple frameworks for what you want to do. I think from a,
I can give you an example of imagine Microsoft is a client, and Microsoft said we only allow people to open Outlook on their phones. Now, obviously, phones can get compromised. People can switch, transfer data. So a lot can happen, right? But what do we say that, okay, every they install like a specific SIM card on your phone, eSIM card with a specific IMSI profile, and they assign like a specific APN to, so it's like Microsoft.com APN, right? And they say our website will only open if you go through this APN, and the APN is only configured on this IMSI, and this IMSI can only work on this phone IMEI. So you can start locking down those things, and it will only work when the person is in San Francisco. So as soon as the person leaves San Francisco, they go to San Jose. The SIM doesn't work because you can track a location. So you can have as many protection as you want on a level of those things. So you can have a tank going from a Bakersfield to Los Angeles, right? And you say that, but the truck didn't end up making the truck went to Las Vegas. So you can say why this is in Las Vegas. I need to notify. So right now those things are only possible through having a software like a hardware or app based on the phone. But what if we can make an appless? That's pretty much. And with the eSIM card, you can push a SIM card to a phone without their permission. So if you have IMEI number, you can literally SIM card push it. I can push a SIM card to your phone without you doing anything. So
No,
that's
I
very
like this. So
beautiful.
I think that right there is, yeah, I think that's nail on the head right there is the potential for what this is, and and being able to structure things, and that gets us back, holistically right into the zero trust basic constructs. And people talk about geofencing, people talk about that structure around all that fun stuff, and I think that's beautiful. I love it. I think it's part and parcel with what I think should be growth phases for overarching security, and these things as a whole are inherently crap, and we need better options.
And everyone has their own choice, right? Like some people may say I'm okay with it, and we talked about within our company that we will never be a bigger company. We will always remain a very small kind of a French coffee shop next to your street where you want to go. You want to fill up your belly, you go to McDonald's. You want the best coffee, you come to us.
Yeah, you could be the Starbucks of cell phone service.
Yeah.
I'll help you spin up your gift cards.
And we become bank.
And soon they'll be asking for a $500
There you go.
gift
See,
cards
it all
for
comes
you.
back around, doesn't it? No.
Yeah. Frankly, we are just enjoying what we are building. We don't have a specific goal in mind of, okay, let's get to this, let's do IPO, let's get acquired, let's do something. We are more like a profitable small business that just focuses on security.
No, but it's a fun startup. I mean, I get to put up with Ryan Reynolds Mint Mobile commercial. Well, I think they just sold, but
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds Mint Mobile. That's the only thing I get as alternatives to pick a big three. So no, this is good. This is a good security option. I think it was really fun wrapping all this back in. If we take the secure device practices that some of us like to take, when we pay or develop or buy or make our own more secured Android, iPhone, Windows Phone, whatever the platform is we want to use. And then we couple that with the digital security that's available through something like what y'all are providing. It really is a more holistic picture, right? And the only thing I've ever experienced that's even remotely comparable is exclusively on a government network where, you've got the president's phone, or you've got pick a phone that's got the encryption schema on, and it's classified phones, cell phones, all this other stuff, because they do exist. But even those, there's a couple echelons to those where those are tied directly to a government provider at an MSS level or MSC level. And those obviously have their own rigorous controls. But that is a very antiquated approach to what they're doing, in my opinion, what y'all are offering. And the way to do that, I think there's a lot of application, government and private sector, around at least the concepts and the ideology of what y'all are doing. So, it's fun. So I appreciate it. So I know we've only got about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to shut up and see if Elliot's got anything else he wanted us to dive into.
Yeah. So to, I guess, dial us back to the story that really was your origin story, so to speak. I was hoping maybe we could put you through some trauma and relive some of that experience. Obviously, there was a significant amount of well understood paranoia that came out of it, but I would love to just kind of walk back to when that first event occurred. Like, what was that setting? Were you like sitting in your living room? Were you at work? What did that look like when you realized, oh shit, my phone has been popped? What do I do next?
Yeah. I think, it was 11 o'clock. I was actually in Canada at that time, as I remember. So I'm sitting in my apartment and I got an email that, so normally we don't use our cell phone. Like, I don't know how many phone calls I make. Like really, I make a phone call. So you can check email, like, you get WhatsApp, Signal, and everything is working on your phone. So you believe it's fine. So unless you're expecting to someone or make a regular phone call, you don't notice. So I got an email that I think sorry to let you go or something, like sorry to see you go. And I said, okay, man, like, you get those emails all the time, right? And I do unsubscribe myself. So I said, and realized. But then I said, this is email from myself in career. So I'm not looking at it. And I think for a few minutes, I didn't figure out like what's going on.
Mhm.
Like SimSwap was the last thing that I thought. Like, hey, I think the payment issue. And I said, okay, let me look into that. I said, wait a minute, what's going on? I tried to log into my account and I couldn't log in anymore. So now what do? You make a phone call and my phone doesn't work. And I think within 3 or 4 minutes, I said, okay, man, I'm now here. And what's the nearest cell phone service? Like where's the store? And I said, how do you go there? So literally I got into my car. I think I tried to make a phone call to my wife's number. And obviously, your call is important, but there's a 10 hours wait time, right? And I said, okay, man, like, like obviously not 10 hours,
Yeah.
but like, you throw those calls. Where it says we are the most important customer, but they don't have time for us. So I sat in my car and I walked into the store. And the store guys, obviously, they're line up. And I said, this is an emergency. And they say, okay, how can I help you out? And they say, I lost my SIM card. And they realized that they will spend an hour with me and it will not make them money because they are based on commission. So
Right.
why would they help me out, right? So they said, okay, wait in the line till you get to. They were serving all the customer. I think an hour or two passed by, and I said, okay, man, what should we do here? He says, okay, and he didn't know what SimSwap is, so I spent like maybe half an hour telling them what to do, and then he's calling manager. Like basically, I'm telling my story again and again to multiple people, and they think I'm like a fool or I'm like I have some mental issue,
Those bonkers.
who's just wasting their time and just trying to tell them what happened. And this is just not possible. I said, man, it happened to me. What do you mean it's not possible? So graciously, he looked into his computer and said that, okay, let me look. He said, yes, you were a customer, but you switched your line to a different carrier today. I said, which carrier? He said, I can't tell you. I said, dude, this is my ID. Tell me where did it go? I said, it's against policy. I said, okay, man, what should I do? Finally, I was able to figure out. I said, call the carrier. I called them up, and they said, go to police. And so now I'm going to RCMP in Canada, which is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And they said, so I'm basically, so same episode. And then they sent me to a different police station. And now, same story. And, like, I think it's been like, I think 7 o'clock. And I'm out of and I'm started to sweat, right? I was literally like, because
Right.
I don't know what's going on. Like, I thought someone was coming, someone's going to my house. I had no connection to my wife. I could not figure out anything going on. And literally, and I knew that offices will close in like 1 hour, 2 hours. I don't have time, right? So ultimately, I got to someone in my cell phone carrier talking to each other, and after a while, you start getting like, like you think that you're a stupid person, right? And everyone is a perfect person because everyone's telling you they're stupid, so you believe that you're stupid. And I had no idea what to do. Like frankly, I couldn't, like, it's something where I was like very hopeless. Like I said, I have no idea what to do. Frankly, like there were no resources that, hey man, this happened. And so finally I found a fraud department and I told them this is a matter of life and death. If you don't secure my phone, I'll have a panic attack or something, and you'll be responsible for that, right? And that's where they start taking it seriously, right? As I'm recording it, but you'll be responsible if you don't take it. So then they called up like the company, and the company got involved. Their fraud department got involved, and they say, "I'm so sorry that it happened to you. Let me look into." I said, "Okay, man, I'm having a panic attack right now, so you basically get to figure it out pretty soon, right?" And I was panicking. Right, like I thought my emails are compromised. Everyone has stolen my money because I've heard the horror stories, and I'm like literally going from one station to another station, waiting in line, explaining because one person will change his shift. You go back to the same station, the person is gone, and you have to explain everything again. So long story, I think it took me 24 to 40 hours to recover the number. They did another credit check on me. Stupid part. They gave me a new account number. and they said everything is fine, and we are sorry for the inconvenience that's
Oh my
caused.
gosh.
And we'll give you 2 days off. So we'll waive off your 2 days of cell phone bill. So 2 days.
Big baller.
I think that part's the best part of all, because I love how vivid your story actually is and how impactful it is, because I read, you've got that quoted on your website. And I think that is very, very important for people to also understand. Like you mentioned earlier, they're a Walmart. If they lose one account, they honestly don't care that much. They only care when they're losing thousands or tens of thousands of accounts that lead to millions of dollars or more. And yeah, so sorry, here you go. Here's a discount, but good luck.
2 days off.
Like 2 days, are you guys, like you said, it's a good thing. I said, man, are you insensitive? I would be frankly like, it said, like, they basically, I felt really, you said it's good. I said, no, it's terrible, man. Like, and I ran, I'm so sorry for the inconvenience, man. I said, are you like serious? Are you basically even sorry? Like, I had no idea what to do. Like, frankly, man, now you're getting the idea of me, right? Like, basically, because I'm
Right.
imagining me from going from one shop to another store, one from other store, and because no one had any clue. The store owner did not wanted me, because they said this guy is not making to buy. He's only trouble in our store. So why don't we just make him? So they were doing everything to move you from. They said go outside and call. I said, how do I call? I don't have a number, right? So they were now trying to sell me a new line. The dude, like, are you are you crazy, right? What's the? I don't want to say right now, but I was actually very
So
crazy
I'm
at
really
the time.
curious if after they created you a new account, if whoever did that still got a commission.
Probably.
Oh, here we go.
I
Totally
have no
did.
idea. But well, they compensated me for 2 days of travel, so that was the thing. And then they billed me, and then they did something else. So they, on the past account, they sent me like some kind of like $14 or some $15, like, in collection that had to
Oh,
get
good.
removed because I had a new connection. It was such a stupidity, but anyway, I had to get it removed, and because I'm very particular about my credit score and everything, like, I treat it
Yeah.
like, okay, this is like crazy thing. But that's one thing. So after a while, so I said, okay, that's good. Well, guess what happened after a few months? Same. We are sorry to let you go. Same company. And I said, like, how can you do that? Like, man, please,
Months
like, how can
later.
you do this, right? And I had, like, I was literally like, think of taking a baseball bat, and basically, like, I had no idea. Like, first of all, I didn't know what to do. Like, okay, this time I actually knew what to do. But I was like, it's like one of those things, like, it's like they say, if you eat a frog, eat it in the morning, right? So I said, okay, man, like, I was thinking about, steps, like, should I go to step number one? Should I do step number two? Step number three? Like, what should I follow, right? And I went there, and the same story. And this time I kind of made it pretty fast. I said, this is a matter of national security, as in, like, my account got compromised. If you don't get fixed it, like, this will be big trouble. So I made it pretty seriously, like, no, not a maximum security. I said, man, this is like serious for me, right? And you are responsible. And I started taking their names, and I said, if you are in the store, I'm telling you this is serious, and if you don't fix this within 1 hour, I will hold you personally liable for that. So I started recording it, and I was very, very serious. I was not taking it light. I said, then this cannot happen. Same story. They were sorry for that, but this time they didn't even give me 2 days of credit. And uh, I literally said, man, this is over. So I moved to
Yeah.
a different company. I moved to a different country. I moved to a different country,
That's how fed up he
country
was.
and company. I literally left
Damn.
Canada. I left Canada. I said, man, I cannot deal with, like, it was. I know this looks like pretty. People may think this is like I was overreacting, and I felt that, and and I'll tell you something which is very personal, and I always used to think about that. Why do victims speak out for 10, 15 years? You say about, hey, the victims were, because they were living with that trauma all the time, and uh, with me, I had my family, I had my kids and everything, so that supported me. But the challenge is that, there's something in life that attracts, like, that now they impact you so much that it's basically somewhere in mind. Like, some people have a fear of going in darkness because they had something that they saw where they were kids, right? Some people may have, like, some kind of trauma of, like, flying because they did something here about it, and they don't know, it's unconscious, right? So I still have some bit of scars from the incident, and then same thing that happened in the US twice. And where I said, man, this is like getting crazy. Like either I have to stop using a cell phone and doing that. And now I know that a lot of people don't use cell phone. It's a small market, but people come to us and they say, thanks for building. Now I can use my cell phone. And thanks for building it, because I never had a cell phone in 2 years, because they have fears of someone getting into your account. There's like paranoia, and people cry on the phone with us. And I've dealt with a lot of like personal victim, and I said that uh, it's getting to a point where it's impacting my mental health, where I couldn't function anymore, because I always thought that someone is going to, you know, kill me, like someone come after my room. And nothing felt safe in my life. Like I thought I was always being watched. You can't get on a plane because you're out of the cell phone coverage for like 12 hours. It's a long flight, or 3 hours, 4 hours. And it makes you look stupid, man. Like, you start feeling very less about yourself. Like your motivation goes down. You basically will always be, you lose your confidence in
I mean, it's a
everything.
huge invasion of privacy.
Your camera is always like, yeah, it's like a camera watching you all the time. And people talk about privacy also, and they say that privacy, if I'm not doing anything wrong, why should I care about privacy? I said, no, man. Like, think about if someone is watching you all the time. It's not fun. Like, you cannot perform well. And the fact that someone can go into your life whenever they want. And I gave you the example of a bullet. A person may not kill you, but he left a note on your desk that I can do whatever I want to do. And now you're destroyed for your rest of life. Like, some people may take it, uh, some people may have taken, like, seriously. I have personally survived a bomb blast. And that incident has not impacted me, which this incident happened to me, right? And because it's like, I don't know, like, it's very hard to, a lot of people who are listening to that, they will say, man, this guy is just like, exaggerating and everything. But frankly, sometimes it does give me, you said you want to take out those things. So it does impact me sometimes. Like, I talked to a lot of victims too, whose careers got destroyed. They couldn't function anymore. And now I have more empathy for the victims that I didn't have before. And I thought that people are just making up to make money, that they will sue someone for $100 million after like 20 years. I said, this is a small thing. No, this is a massive thing, and trauma is real. And the worst part is, a lot of victims, they know who hacked them. And those guys are posting on Instagram, flying on my chartered flight, like wearing those branded clothes. And these victims have lost everything. So someone who has stole everything from you, he's flexing that he's basically, flying in a first class, business class, and like, charter, and you are now unable to make your kids' tuition or your mortgage. Like, it's not easy to absorb
Absolutely.
that.
So I know we're definitely towards the end of our chat, but I do want to just add in additional context. So our listeners are obviously primarily in like the cybersecurity world, or they're interested in it, so they're pretty astute. But you clearly have a technical background, and being able to navigate that, you're probably at a better position to be able to navigate it. But hearing your story and how complex it is, and how impactful that is, a regular person, they even know to, go to, your carrier? Would they be able to, contact the right officials? Or are they just going to be like, screw it, I'll just get a new account and hope for the best? But, your sim is tied to being able to access not just your financial institutions, but like, if you use WhatsApp and Signal and some of those other things, you get right in there, because that's how most people use their SMS for two-factor. But like, yeah, I mean, it's an absolute huge invasion of privacy. Even if people like, purport to live like an open book, your whole life is not always on display. So yeah, I totally get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
There's easily trauma involved into that process, and not always to like poke fun and laugh at like scenario, but obviously we can laugh at it in hindsight. It's great that you're able to kind of bring a new solution to the table based on some of those solutions. And that's just one of those beautiful motivating factors that kind of, again, lead to new solutions that our space really needs.
Yeah, that's pretty much about it. Right? Frankly, like, I still say the same thing. I said, man, I don't know, this is such a stupid problem. It's like, while we were building Bitcoin ATM, we said this is the most stupid business in the crypto industry. You have cash and you are taking Bitcoins. Like, there could no business be that stupid than this, right? This is so simple. Like, why don't people do that? With our system, why don't carrier do that? Like, one thing, just do one thing, make sure that no one gets into my account. That's pretty simple. Allow me to have a YubiKey or a hardware key. I just install it in my computer and I can make changes, like, have some kind of a different authentication method. But it's the same thing. They said it costs them money and it's not revenue generating for them.
That's pretty embarrassing on their end. But that definitely takes us to the end of today's story. Thank you so much, Haseeb, for sharing, unfortunately, your bit traumatic experience, sharing a little bit of laughs with us, and giving us some insight into what you've built as a solution for that.
Yeah, thank you once again, Haseeb, for the chats. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
I'm going to dive more into Y'all's company a little bit more, but I think it's a good offer, and I think it's a good last mile piece of some of the puzzles that a lot of people are looking to solve and what they need to consider, right, for moving forward, not just in Zero Trust, but just in general, period. So once again, appreciate your time, sir.
Yeah, a lot of things in cybersecurity are super simple. We don't have to complex our life. Like I say, use a password manager, use a hardware key, use authenticator, and obviously Efani if you can afford it. But do these 3-4 things, and you are better than 99.9% of the world.
All right, that is your episode. Thank you all so much. We will be back in 2 weeks.
Thank you for joining AZT, an independent series. Your hosts have been Elliot Volkman and Neil Dennis. To learn more about Zero Trust, go to adoptingzerotrust.com, subscribe to our newsletter, or join our Slack community. Viewpoints expressed during the show do not reflect the brands, employers, or companies of our hosts, guests, or potential sponsors.